The great hall of Nexus Prime was full of noise. Hundreds of alien voices spoke in dozens of different languages. The smell of strange foods and different air mixes filled the space. This was how every council meeting started. Speaker Veltar stood at the center podium. His blue skin shone under the bright lights. He was tall and thin, like all Zalani. His voice cut through the noise when he spoke. "The council will come to order," he said. His words went through the translation systems to every delegate in the hall. The noise slowly died down. Delegates took their seats. Each species had their own section. The tall Zalani sat in one area. The four-armed Kitherian empaths had another. The rock-like Thylorians took up a whole corner with their heavy bodies. Veltar looked around the room. Something was missing. He checked his datapad. "Where is Ambassador Kang?" he asked his aide. The young Zalani looked nervous. "The human delegation has not arrived, Speaker." "Again?" Veltar's eyes narrowed. "This is the third time in a row." In the human section, empty chairs sat in perfect rows. The nameplates were still there. Ambassador Kang Dai-ho and Aide Park Nari marked the front seats, but no humans sat in them. Most of the other delegates did not care. The Vothari delegation was busy sharpening their claws. The Draknari generals talked about their latest battles. The humans were always quiet anyway. Who would miss them? Prime Claw. Thexani stood up. He was the leader of the Vothari hunting clans. His red fur was marked with battle scars. His voice was like gravel when he spoke. "Speaker Veltar," he said, "I wish to make a motion." The floor recognizes Prime Claw Thexani. The Vothari smiled, showing sharp teeth. "The humans have failed to attend 3 meetings. They have not answered our calls. Their territories are empty of their ships. I say they have given up their place in this council." Murmurs went around the hall. Some delegates nodded. Others looked confused. "What do you propose?" Veltar asked. "I propose we take control of human space. The Orion Arm has many good worlds, rich mining systems, trade routes we all use. If the humans have left, then we should not let these places go to waste." A small voice spoke up. It came from the Kitherian section. Elder Mireth stood on her thin legs. Her forearms moved as she spoke. "We should wait," she said. "The humans may have a good reason for their absence. We should try to contact them first." Thexani laughed. It was not a nice sound. "Contact them? We have tried. Their colonies are empty, their ships are gone. They ran away like scared prey." More voices joined in. The Draknari war chief Gorthax stood up. He was huge, even. Sitting down. "The Vothari speaks truth," he growled. "We sent scouts to human space, found nothing. Empty worlds, dark stations. They are gone." This was news to many delegates. Worried sounds filled the hall. Dr. Yoon Minji watched from the observation deck high above. She was not supposed to be there. Humans were not allowed in the observer section during council votes about human matters. But she had ways of hiding. She was small and quiet, like many human scientists. Her job was to study alien plants on Nexus Prime, but today she was here for a different reason. She needed to see what would happen. Yoon had received a message 3 days ago. It came from her old teacher, Dr. Song Hyuk. The message was short. "Emergency Protocol 7 is now active. Maintain cover. Document everything. Do not contact Earth." Protocol 7 was something she had learned about in secret classes that most humans did not know existed. She thought it was just theory, stories to scare students, but the message was real. Down in the council hall, the debate continued. Speaker Veltar called for order again and again. "The motion is clear," he said finally. "Prime Claw Thexani proposes that we claim former human territories due to abandonment. All in favor?" Hands, claws, and tentacles went up all around the hall. Yoon counted them. Too many to stop. All opposed? Only a few delegates raised their hands. The Kitherians all voted no. A couple of small species joined them. But it was not enough. The motion passes. 847 votes in favor, 23 opposed. Veltar hit his gavel. "Human territories in the Orion Arm are now under council control." Cheers went up from some sections. The Vothari howled in pleasure. The Draknari beat their chests. Even the usually calm Zalani smiled. but some delegates looked worried. Elder Mirath sat very still. Her people were empaths. They could feel emotions from other beings. Something felt wrong to her. In the far corner, the ancient archivists of Keth whispered among themselves. They were the oldest species in the galaxy. They remembered things others forgot. One of them, Keeper Seth Ara, spoke to her companion. "This feels familiar," she hissed in her snake-like voice. "The last time a guardian species left quietly." "That was millions of years ago," her friend replied. "Different galaxy, different threat." Was it? High above, Yoon Minji made notes on her hidden recorder. Every word, every vote, every face. She would send this information to the void. Somehow her people would see it. Somehow they would know what the council had done. The meeting continued with other business. Trade agreements, border disputes, normal council work. But many delegates were already thinking about the human worlds they could claim, the riches they could take. None of them wondered why the humans had left so quietly. None of them asked what the humans might have been doing in those empty systems. They just saw opportunity. As the meeting ended, delegates began making plans. The Vothari wanted the mining worlds. The Thylorians claimed the industrial systems. The Zalani spoke of the trade routes. But far away, in the deep dark between stars, other plans were already in motion. Commander Lee Taewon sat in the captain's chair of the UES Harmony. His ship was unlike any the council had ever seen. It bent, light around itself. It moved without making a sound. To any scanner, it looked like empty space. "Report," he said to his crew. "The vote is finished, sir," said Lieutenant Kim Sora from the communications station. "They voted to take our territories." "How?" "Many opposed. 23, sir. The Kitherians, some of the smaller species." Lee nodded. He had expected this. His orders came from people much smarter than him. People who had planned for this day. "Send the signal," he ordered. "Which one, sir?" "Phase 2. All across human space, hidden ships received the same signal. In asteroid belts, behind moons, in the shadows of gas giants. Ships that had been waiting for this moment. They did not attack. They did not threaten. They simply watched. And waited. On the bridge of the Harmony, Lee opened a secure channel. His message would travel faster than light to places the council did not know existed. "This is Commander Lee Taewon," he said. "The council has taken the bait. They think we ran away. They think we were weak. The containment protocols are now their responsibility. May God help them all." He closed the channel and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the council delegates were celebrating. They thought they had won. They thought they had gained rich new territories for free. They would learn soon. Enough how wrong they were, but by then, it would be too late for all of them. 6 months had passed since the council vote. The galaxy looked very different now. Trade ships moved through what used to be human space. Alien colonies were being built on human worlds. Mining operations dug into asteroids that humans once worked. Everything seemed normal, but it was not normal at all. Captain Vex Moore of the Crix Hegemony stood on his ship's bridge. He was angry, very angry. His cargo run should have taken 2 days. It had taken 2 weeks. "Navigation officer," he growled. "Explain this to me again." The young Crix officer looked scared. "Sir, the beacon at Junction Point 7 is giving wrong information. It says to go left, but left leads into a gravity well. The charts show it should go right, but right leads to empty space." "What about the backup beacons?" "They are worse. Sir, 2 of them are sending ships in circles. One is completely dead." Vexmore hit his control panel. "These beacons worked fine when the humans ran them. What changed?" The officer did not answer. He did not know. All across the former human trade routes, the same thing was happening. Navigation systems that had worked perfectly for decades were now failing. Ships got lost. Cargo was late. Some ships never arrived at all. The Hegemony sent repair teams to fix the beacons. The teams found the beacons working perfectly. All tests showed green. All systems were normal. But ships still got lost. On the planet New Sol, Dr. Yoon Minji watched from her hidden base. The planet had been one of the crown jewels of human space. Beautiful cities, perfect weather, rich farmland. The Zalani Empire had claimed it first. They brought colonists, thousands of them. They were so happy to have such a perfect world. The first winter changed everything. Yoon watched through her telescope as Zilani colonists ran from building to building. The weather control systems were failing. Snow fell in summer, heat waves hit in winter. The power grid could not keep up. "Attention, New Sol Colony," the Zilani administrator said over the radio. "We are experiencing technical difficulties. All colonists must move to emergency shelters." Yoon almost felt sorry for them. Almost. The weather control system was not broken. It was just very, very complex. Human engineers had spent 50 years making it work. They had built backup systems and backup systems for the backup systems. But they had also built it to need constant small adjustments. Without those adjustments, the system was slowly going mad. It could not decide if it was summer or winter, so it tried to be both at the same time. Yoon made notes in her log. The humans who designed this system had known this day might come. They had built in safeguards. The system would not kill anyone, but it would make life very difficult. Far away in the Nexus system, another problem was growing. General Velmar of the Zilani military was losing his mind. His supply lines were falling apart. Food shipments arrived, spoiled. Ammunition went to the wrong bases. Medical supplies got lost in transit. "How is this possible?" he shouted at his staff. "We are using the same supply routes, the same computers, the same everything." Colonel Nextar, his aide, looked at his datapad. "Sir, the logistics algorithm is working perfectly. All efficiency ratings are in the green. Then why are my soldiers eating spoiled food?" "The algorithm says the food should be fresh, sir. Velmar wanted to throw something. The logistics system had been designed by humans. It was brilliant. It could move supplies across the galaxy with perfect timing. Every Zilani general had wished they could think like human logistics officers. Now they were learning why. The system was not just a computer program. It was a work of art. It took into account millions of variables, weather patterns, traffic jams, political situations, even the moods of transport pilots. Human logistics officers had made tiny adjustments every day. They had feelings for how the system worked. They could sense when something was about to go wrong. The Zilani had the computers, but they did not have the human touch. Without it, the system was slowly breaking down in ways that could not be measured. Admiral Kim Ji-won watched it all from his hidden ship, the Silent Dawn. His mission was simple: observe and record. Do not interfere. Let the aliens learn for themselves. It was not easy to watch. Kim had friends among the Zilani, good people who did not deserve what was happening to them. But his orders were clear. His communication officer, Lieutenant Park, Mina, looked up from her station. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Bright Harbor. Put it on screen." The image showed a Catherian colony ship landing on a human world. Bright Harbor had been a small but beautiful colony. The humans had left it in perfect condition. Kim watched as the Catherians explored the empty city. They were careful people. They did not want to damage anything. They just wanted a place to live. The Catherians found something the other aliens had missed. In the center of the city was a broadcast station. It was playing a message on repeat. The Catherian captain, Elder Yorith, listened to the message with her 4 ears. "This is Administrator Han Yu-sung of Bright Harbor Colony," the recording said. "If you are hearing this, then we have left and you have taken our place. We do not blame you for this. We hope you will be happy here." The message continued, "But you should know something. We did not leave because we were afraid of you. We left because we were afraid for you. There are things in this galaxy that hunt in the dark, things that eat the light from stars, things that turn order into chaos." Elder Yorith felt a chill run through her body. As an empath, she could feel the emotions in the recording: fear, sadness, and something else: love. The humans had loved this place, and they had loved the people who would come after them. "We have been watching these things for a long time," the recording went on. "We have been fighting them when they got too close. We have been fixing the problems they caused. But now we cannot do that job anymore." The message was quiet for a moment. Then it continued. "We tried to warn you. We tried to tell the council about the dangers. But you would not listen. You thought we were weak. You thought we were making excuses. So we have left you to learn for yourselves." Elder Yorith called her ship's communication officer. "Send this recording to the council," she ordered. "All of it, Elder. All of it." especially the next part. The recording had more to say. "We are sorry for what is coming. We are sorry we could not make you understand. We are sorry we had to leave you alone. But maybe, when the darkness comes, you will remember that we tried to help. Maybe you will remember that we were your friends." The message ended with coordinates, star charts, and a warning. "Do not go to these places. Do not mine these asteroids. Do not build stations in these systems. And whatever you do not try to fix the containment systems you will find there. You do not know what they are containing." On the silent dawn, Admiral Kim closed his eyes. The countdown had begun. The aliens were about to learn what humans had really been doing in their quiet little colonies. He opened a secure channel to Earth Command. "This is Admiral Kim. The Catherians have found the Bright Harbor message. Other species are experiencing system failures. Timeline is holding steady." The reply came back quickly. "Understood, Admiral. Maintain observation. Phase 3 begins in 72 hours. Kim looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, things that should not exist were stirring. Things that had been kept asleep by human vigilance. Things that were about to wake up. The aliens thought they had won a prize when they took human space. Soon they would learn what they had really won. A responsibility too terrible for words. The Thylorian Collective had always been miners. Their rock-like bodies were perfect for digging deep into asteroids. Their patience was legendary. They could work for years without stopping. So when they found the Iron Garden asteroid field, they thought they had struck gold. The field was huge, thousands of asteroids rich in rare metals. The humans had been mining there for decades, but they had barely touched the resources. To the Thylorians, it looked like the humans had been lazy. Foreman Kexthor led the first mining team. He was old, even by Thylorian standards. His stone skin was covered in scars from a lifetime of mining. He had worked in every major asteroid, field in the galaxy. "This will make us rich," he told his team as they flew toward the largest asteroid. "The humans left us a treasure." Engineer Nam Sumin would have laughed if she could hear him. She was hiding in a stealth ship nearby, watching the Thylorians approach her old work site. She knew what they would find. The Iron Garden was not just a mining operation. It was a prison. Nam had spent 15 years as the chief engineer of Iron Garden Station. Her job was supposed to be mining coordination. In reality, she was a warden. Every 3 months, she performed maintenance on systems that kept something locked away, something that should never be released. The Thylorian ships landed on asteroid IG-1138. Kexthor and his team started unloading their equipment. Heavy drills, processing units, living quarters for a long-term operation. "Readings look good," said technician Velrock. "High concentration of platinum and rare earth elements. This will be easy work." They set up their equipment and started drilling. The first day went well. The asteroid was full of valuable metals, just as the scans had shown. On the second day, things started to go wrong. "Foreman," called miner Hexdell, "something is wrong with my drill." Kexthor walked over to look. The drill bit was covered in rust. But that was impossible. The drill was only 1 day old. "Must be a bad batch of metal," Kexthor said. "Use a different drill." But the second drill did the same thing, and the third. Every piece of metal that touched the asteroid started aging rapidly. By the end of the week, the Thylorians were very worried. Their equipment was falling apart faster than they could replace it. Tools that should last for years were crumbling. "After hours. Maybe it is some kind of bacteria," suggested Chief Scientist Roxanol. "Some alien microbe that eats metal." They ran tests. No bacteria, no virus, no chemical reaction they could understand. The metal just got old. In her hidden ship, Nam Sumin watched the readings on her instruments. The containment field was weakening. Without her quarterly maintenance, the seals were starting to fail. She opened a secure channel to report back to command. "This is Engineer Nam. The Thylorians have been drilling for 1 week. Containment is down to 60%. I recommend immediate evacuation of all personnel." The reply came back. "Negative. Maintain observation. Do not interfere unless civilian populations are at risk." Nam did not like it, but she understood. The aliens had to learn for themselves, even if the cost was terrible. On asteroid IG-1138, the situation was getting worse. Miner Dexkar was working deep in the tunnels when he heard something that made his stone skin crawl. The metal around him was making noise, not the normal sounds of mining. Something else. Screaming. The metal walls were screaming. He dropped his tools and ran. Behind him, the tunnel walls started to change. The metal was bending in ways that hurt to look at, shapes that made no sense, angles that existed in too many dimensions. "Emergency evacuation," Kexthor shouted over the radio. "All miners return to the surface immediately." But some miners could not return. The tunnels were changing. Passages that had been straight were now twisted. Elevators led to places that did not exist on any map. Miner Grokhal found himself in a room that was bigger on the inside than the outside. The walls showed images of things that had never been alive, things that moved without muscles, things that thought without brains. He tried to leave, but the door was gone. In its place was a mirror that showed his reflection, but his reflection was smiling. He was not smiling. On the surface, Kexthor tried to contact his missing miners. The radio worked, but the voices that answered were wrong. "This is Dexcar," came a voice over the radio. But it was not Dexcar's voice. It was someone else using his voice. Someone who had learned to speak by listening to screams. "Where are you?" Kexthor asked. "I am here," the voice said. "I am there. I am everywhere the light does not touch. Come down and see." Kexthor turned off the radio. Within hours, the Thylorian Collective received an emergency transmission from Iron Garden. The message was confused and panicked. It spoke of impossible things, equipment that aged decades in minutes, miners who were lost in tunnels that led nowhere, voices that spoke with the wrong mouths. The Collective sent an investigation team. When they arrived, they found the mining ships floating empty in space. No life signs, no bodies, no signs of violence. Just silence. Deep in the asteroid, something was waking up after a very long sleep. Something that existed in the spaces between spaces. Something that fed on the difference between what was real and what was possible. The humans had called them devourers. They ate reality itself, turning ordered space into chaos. They could not be fought with weapons because they existed in more dimensions than weapons could reach, but they could be contained. With the right technology, with the right knowledge, with constant vigilance. The humans had provided all three for over 2 centuries. Now the vigil was broken. Captain Park Gunwoo commanded the human stealth ship Last Light. He was positioned at the edge of the Iron Garden system, watching everything through sensors that the aliens could not detect. His orders were clear. Do not interfere unless the threat spreads beyond the asteroid field. But as he watched reality break down around IG 1138, he began to think those orders might need to change. "Sir," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Bay Yuna, "the contamination is spreading to other asteroids. Whatever was in IG 1138 is moving." Park looked at his tactical display. Red warning markers were appearing on asteroids throughout the field. The devourers were spreading faster than anyone had predicted. Time until the contamination reaches inhabited systems? At current rate of expansion, 72 hours. Park made a decision that would change everything. He opened a channel to the Galactic Council. He was about to break 200 years of careful secrecy. "This is Captain Park of the Terran vessel Last Light. You have approximately 72 hours before the containment in Sector 7G fails completely. Evacuate all civilian populations within 50 light years. This is not a request." At Nexus Prime, the message caused chaos. A human ship? Still in council space? And what was this about containment? Speaker Veltar called an emergency session. Delegates demanded answers. Who were these humans? What did they know about Sector 7G? Why should anyone listen to them? Prime. Claw Thexani stood up in the council chamber. His red fur was bristling with anger. "This is a trick," he snarled. "The humans are trying to scare us. They want their territories back. They are making threats they cannot back up." Many delegates agreed. The humans had run away once. Now they were hiding in the dark, making mysterious warnings. It sounded like desperation. "I propose we ignore this message," Thexani continued. "And I propose we hunt down this human ship. They are trespassing in our space." The vote was overwhelming. 756 votes to ignore the warning, 114 votes to take it seriously. But some delegates were worried. Elder Mireth of the Cytherians had heard the human broadcast from Bright Harbor. She remembered the fear in that message, and fear was something she could feel. "Speaker Veltar," she said, "perhaps we should at least investigate. What harm could it do to look?" "It would waste resources," Veltar replied. "We have mining operations to protect, trade routes to maintain. We cannot evacuate entire systems because of human ghost stories." As the council debated, time was running out. In the Iron Garden, reality was coming apart at the seams. Asteroids were aging millions of years in hours. Space itself was bending, in ways that hurt to look at. And deep in the chaos, something ancient and hungry was stretching itself across dimensions, reaching toward the living worlds beyond. The humans had tried to warn them. Now it was too late for warnings. Soon it would be too late for everything. 68 hours after Captain Park's warning, the Thylorian mining fleet in Iron Garden simply vanished. Not destroyed, not captured, not moved. Vanished. One moment, 50 mining ships and 12,000 Thylorian workers were there. The next moment, they were not. As if they had never existed at all. The only thing left was their last transmission. It echoed across subspace frequencies like a scream that would not end. The voice spoke in Old Thylorian, a language that had not been used for thousands of years, a language that none of the miners should have known. The words hurt to hear. They spoke of spaces between spaces, of hunger that could never be filled, of the joy of watching reality break apart. At Nexus Prime, the council emergency session turned into chaos. "Where are my people?" demanded Rockmother Shexna, the highest leader of the Thylorian collective. Her stone body shook with rage and grief. "Where is my fleet?" Speaker Veltar had no answers. "We are investigating." "Investigating?" Shexna's voice boomed like an avalanche. 12,000 of my children are gone. You said it was safe. You said the humans were lying." Prime Claw. Thexani tried to speak, but Shexna turned on him. With fury. "You!" She pointed a massive finger at the Vathari leader. "You said it was a trick! You said we should ignore the warning! Where are my miners now?" Thexani had no answer. For the first time in his life, the proud hunter looked afraid. Elder Mirath stood up slowly. Her forearms trembled with the effort. As an empath, she could feel the emotions of everyone in the room. Fear, anger, confusion, and underneath it all, something else. Something was watching them. "We need to listen to the humans," she said quietly. "What humans?" Veltar snapped. "They ran away. They left us to deal with their problems." "Did they?" Mirath asked. "Or did they try to warn us about something we could not understand?" Before anyone could answer, alarms started blaring throughout Nexus Prime. Emergency lights flashed red. The station's AI spoke in urgent tones. "Attention, all personnel. Reality distortion detected in Sector 7G. All civilian traffic is ordered to avoid the area immediately." On the main screen, images appeared from automated probes near Iron Garden. The asteroid field looked wrong. Space itself was twisted. Stars were the wrong colors. Some asteroids existed in multiple places at the same time, and something was moving through the distortion, something huge and impossible and hungry. Dr. Yoon Minji watched from her hiding place as panic spread through the station. She had orders to stay hidden, but those orders were about to change. Her communicator buzzed with an encrypted message from Earth Command. "Protocol 8 is now active. Report to Extraction Point 7. The gloves are coming off." Yoon smiled sadly. Protocol 8 was the last resort. It meant humans were about to break their silence and reveal who they really were. But it also meant the situation was desperate. In another part of the galaxy, Professor Choi Jinwoo was having the worst day of his career. For 30 years, he had been the Council's expert on impossible physics. Things that happened, but should not be able to happen. Space that folded wrong. Time that moved backward. Matter that existed in two places at once. The other Council scientists had always made fun of his work. They called it human over-complexity. They said he was making simple problems sound difficult. Now they were calling him for help. "Professor!" The Zalani science minister's voice was panicked over the communicator. "We need your research files, all of them. The ones about dimensional stability? Those files are classified by human security protocols, Choi replied calmly. I cannot release them without proper authorization. Authorization? People are dying. Then, you should have listened when I tried to warn you. The truth was, Choi's research was not really research at all. It was a cover story. For 30 years, he had been documenting the human containment efforts. Every impossible physics event he studied was really a containment failure that humans had quickly fixed. The elegant explanations in his papers, instructions for maintenance that the aliens thought were theoretical science. The council had been reading a maintenance manual and thinking it was philosophy. Now, without the humans to do the maintenance, everything was breaking down at once. The Maelstrom Nebula was expanding, a beautiful cloud of colored gas that tourists loved to visit. But the Maelstrom was not natural. It was a wound in space-time, carefully controlled by human gravity manipulators. Without constant adjustment, the wound was getting bigger. Soon it would swallow entire star systems. The temporal cascade near Rigel was speeding up. Time moved differently there, allowing for faster-than-light communication. But the cascade was unstable. Human chronometer stations had kept it balanced. Now time was breaking down. Messages sent to the past were arriving before they were sent. Effect was happening before cause. Reality itself was coming apart. Colonel Bae Minho led the emergency response team aboard the stealth ship Void Walker. His mission was simple, but dangerous. Evacuate alien populations from sectors about to be consumed. The humans had protocols for this. They had planned for the day when they might have to reveal themselves, but they had hoped it would never come. Target is the research station in the Vega system, Bae told his team. 3,000 Catherian scientists studying stellar formation. They have 6 hours before the reality cascade reaches them. What if they refuse to leave? Asked Sergeant Kim Hana. They will not refuse, Bae said grimly. They are empaths. They will feel what is coming. The Voidwalker decloaked near the research station. The Catherians were terrified at first. A human ship? Here? Now? But Elder Yorith felt the emotions of the human crew. Not anger, not hatred, fear, and something else. Duty. This is Colonel Bae Minho of the Terran Deep Space Command, came the transmission. Your station is in immediate danger. We are here to evacuate you. Evacuate to where? Yorith asked. Anywhere but here. You have 6 hours before this entire system is consumed by a reality cascade. Please trust us. Yorith could feel the truth in his words. The humans were not lying. They were not trying to trick anyone. They were trying to save lives. We will come, she said. As the Catherian ships followed the Voidwalker to safety, they watched through their sensors as the Vega system died. The stars did not explode. They did not go dark. They simply stopped being real. One moment they were there. The next moment, space had forgotten they ever existed. Meanwhile, the Draknari Empire was preparing for war. War Chief Gorthax was the greatest military mind of his generation. He had conquered 12 star systems for the Draknari. He had never lost a battle, but he had never fought an enemy like this. Where are they? He demanded, staring at the tactical display. These humans hide in the dark like cowards. They attack our people and then disappear. Sir, said his aide, Captain Norax, maybe they are not attacking us. Maybe they are trying to help. Gorthax backhanded his aide across the room. Help? They evacuate our people and call it help? They destroy our mining operations and call it help? The truth was, Gorthax did not understand what was happening. His military mind could only think in terms of attack and defense. The idea that someone might be trying to save his people from something worse was impossible for him to grasp. Find them, he ordered. Mobilize the entire fleet. Hunt down every human ship. Show them what happens when they mess with the Draknari Empire. The Draknari Grand Fleet was impressive. 500 warships, the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Shields that could stop anything normal. They found the Devourers 3 days later. General Ryu Sungho watched from his command ship Guardian's Edge as the Draknari fleet engaged the enemy. It was like watching children fight a hurricane. The Draknari ships fired everything they had: plasma cannons, antimatter torpedoes, gravity bombs, enough firepower to destroy a planet. The weapons passed right through the Devourers. They existed in more dimensions than the weapons could reach. But the Devourers could reach back. Draknari ships began aging rapidly. Metal hulls crumbled to dust. Computer systems forgot how to work. Crew members aged decades in seconds, their memories scattered across multiple timelines. War Chief Gorth Axe's flagship was the last to fall. As reality broke down around him, he finally understood what he was facing. Not an enemy that could be fought, a force of nature that could only be contained. As his ship came apart around him, he managed one last transmission. "This is War Chief Gorth Axe. We were wrong. The humans. They were not our enemies. They were our guardians. They were protecting us from this. And we threw them away." General Ryu heard the transmission. He made a decision that would change everything. He ordered his ship to decloak. "This is General Ryu Seung-ho of the Terran Deep Space Command," he broadcast on all frequencies. "We are not your enemy. We are what stood between you and them." All across the galaxy, human ships began revealing themselves. Ships that had been hiding for months. Ships that had been watching. Ships that had been waiting for this moment. The time for secrets was over. Now came the reckoning. The revelation changed everything. When Dr. Han Yunji's research files were finally opened to alien scientists, they found something that terrified them. Humans had not been the minor species they thought. For over 200 years, humans had been the galaxy's secret guardians. Every human research station had been a containment facility. Every human trade route had been a patrol line. Every human colony had been positioned to watch weak points in reality. The files were written in simple language, but they described horrors beyond imagination. Report 2847. Temporal anomaly contained in Sector 12B. 3 days of localized time reversal stopped using chronometer array. No civilian populations affected. Report 3156. Reality bleed in Rigel system sealed. Dimensional stabilizers working at full capacity. Recommend additional monitoring. Report 4723. Devourer incursion in Iron Garden Field. Emergency containment successful. Updating security protocols. Academic Velnora of the Zalani Empire read through file after file. Each one told the same story. Humans had been fighting threats that other species could not even see, and they had been doing it alone. "This is impossible," she whispered to herself. "How did we not know?" The answer was in the files. The humans had tried to tell them. For decades, human scientists had published papers about dimensional physics, reality stability, and temporal mechanics. The other species had dismissed it all as human overthinking. They thought humans were making simple problems complicated. In reality, humans had been trying to explain problems so complex that most species could not understand them. Now, with their worlds falling apart around them, the aliens were desperate to learn. But it might be too late. Fleet Admiral Oh Yanwu stood on the bridge of the final stand, humanity's most powerful ship. It was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. The ship seemed to bend space around itself. Its hull was made from materials that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The final stand had been built in the void between galaxies, where humans had spent the last 6 months preparing for this moment. "Admiral," reported Captain Lee Minseo from the tactical station. "We are receiving surrender requests from 17 different species." Oh smiled sadly. "They do not need to surrender. They need to understand." Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. These were not soldiers preparing for battle. They were engineers preparing for the greatest construction project in galactic history, a new containment grid. The old containment system had been built slowly over centuries. Humans had placed monitoring stations and reality anchors throughout the galaxy. They had learned to sense when something was wrong and fix it before it got worse, but that system was gone now. Destroyed by alien interference and neglect, the new system would have to be built quickly, and it would require sacrifices that no one had ever made before. "Signal from Earth Command," reported Communications Officer Park Ju-hyuk. "Operation Shepherd's Watch is authorized. All units are go." Oh nodded. "Send the message to all human ships. The vigil begins again." Across the galaxy, hidden human ships received the signal. They emerged from asteroid fields, from behind moons, from the dark spaces between stars. Hundreds of ships that had been waiting for this moment, but these ships would not return home when their mission was done. They could not return home. To power the new containment grid, each ship would have to merge with a reality anchor point. The crews would become permanent guardians, their consciousness expanded across multiple dimensions. They would live forever, watching the dark spaces where terrible things waited to break through, but they would never again walk on a planet's surface. They would never again hold their families. They would become living lighthouses in the void. Captain Seo Ji-hoon commanded one of those ships. The eternal duty was approaching anchor point. Delta 7, a spot in empty space where reality was thin. "Are you ready for this?" asked his first officer, Lieutenant Kim So-young. SEO looked out at the stars. Somewhere among them was Earth. His wife and daughter were there, waiting for him to come home. He would never see them again. "No," he said honestly, "but it has to be done." The eternal duty began the merge process. The ship's hull started to change, becoming part of the fabric of space-time itself. The crew felt their minds expanding, touching dimensions they had never imagined. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. All across the galaxy, the same process was happening. Human ships were becoming part of the universe itself. There, crews transformed into eternal guardians. At Nexus Prime, the Council watched in amazement and horror. Speaker Veltar stood before the Great Assembly. For the first time in his career, he was speechless. The screens around the chamber showed what was happening. Human ships merging with reality itself. Space-time wounds being sealed by crews who gave up their humanity to save everyone else. "Why?" whispered Elder Mirath. "Why would they do this for us, after what we did to them?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yoon Minji walked into the chamber. She was no longer hiding. Her mission as an observer was over. "Because it is what we do," she said simply. "We are guardians. It is not about who deserves protection. It is about protecting life itself." The delegates stared at her. This small, quiet human had been among them for years, watching, learning, reporting back to her people. "You have been spying on us," accused Prime Claw Thexani. "Yes," Yoon admitted. "We needed to know what you would do when we left. We needed to know if you could learn to work together." "And what did you decide?" Yoon looked around the chamber. At the Zalani with their pride, at the Draknari with their anger, at the Thylorians with their grief, at the Catherians with their fear. "You are children," she said. "But children can grow up. Maybe this will teach you." The transformation was not without cost. Some human crews did not survive the merge process. Their ships became dark monuments. In space, warning beacons for dangers that no longer threatened. But most succeeded. Across the galaxy, new anchor points came online. Reality stabilized. The wounds in space-time began to heal. The Devourers, sensing the new containment grid, retreated to the spaces between dimensions. They would wait there, patient as always, for another chance to break through. But that chance would not come for a very long time. Commander Yu Do-yun felt his transformation completing. His ship, the Eternal Vigil, was now part of the anchor grid. His consciousness existed in 12 dimensions at once. He could see everything, the past and future, the spaces where monsters waited, the delicate balance that kept the galaxy safe. It was lonely beyond words. But it was also beautiful. He could feel his fellow guardians scattered across the stars. Human minds linked by duty and sacrifice, watching over a galaxy that had rejected them. They were no longer human in any normal sense, but they were still protectors. In his final log entry, broadcast to Earth, Yu wrote, "The vigil begins again. We stand watch in the dark so others can live in the light. We are no longer your sons and daughters. We are your gift to the galaxy." Earth. Families mourned heroes they would never see again. But they also felt pride. Their loved ones had become something greater than human. They had become hope. The galaxy was safe again. But the cost had been terrible, and everyone finally understood what humans really were. Not conquerors, not explorers, not traders or diplomats, guardians, silent, eternal, watchful, standing between the light and the dark, so that life could flourish among the stars. 1 year had passed since the revelation. The galaxy looked very different now. The Galactic Council was no more. In its place stood the Protective Compact, an alliance based not on politics or profit, but on a single shared goal. Never again. Would the galaxy's guardians stand alone? Commander Seo Ji-hoon took his place at the center of the Great Assembly. He wore the uniform of Earth's new ambassador, but everyone knew he was more than that. He was the voice of those who watched from the dark. The Compact recognizes Ambassador Seo, said the new speaker. It was Elder Mirath now. The Catharians had been chosen to lead because they could feel truth in ways others could not. Seo looked around the chamber. It was much smaller than the old council hall. Only 50 species were represented now. The others had not survived the chaos that followed the revelation. Some had been consumed by reality cascades. Others had destroyed themselves in wars over the remaining safe systems. A few had simply given up and faded away, but the 50 species that remained had learned something important. They had learned to listen. The quarterly report, SEO began, shows that the containment grid is holding. Dimensional stability is at 97% across all monitored sectors. Devourer activity remains minimal. There were murmurs of relief around the chamber. These reports had become the most important events in galactic civilization. However, Seo continued, we have detected new weak points in reality. Sectors 23K and 47 Delta require additional monitoring. We need volunteers. The word volunteers carried weight now. Everyone knew what it meant. Someone would have to join the Guardian fleet. Someone would have to give up their normal life and become a permanent watcher in the void. Surprisingly, hands went up around the chamber. Young Zilani officers who wanted to honor the humans who had saved them. Thylorian engineers who understood the importance of maintenance. Even a few Draknari warriors who had learned that the greatest battles were fought in silence. The Compact accepts your service, Seo said formally. Training will begin next month. The training was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Alien volunteers worked alongside human instructors to learn skills their species had never needed before. How to see in 12 dimensions. How to feel, the heartbeat of reality itself. How to recognize when something that should not exist was trying to break through. Dr. Zheng Haneul ran the training program from the Interdimensional Research Institute. She had been one of the few humans to remain. In normal space, serving as a bridge between the Guardians and everyone else. Remember, she told her students, you are not just watching for big threats. Most containment failures start small. A slight wobble in gravity. A color that does not exist. A sound that makes no sense. These are the warnings. Her current class had students from 12 different species. They worked together now in ways that would have been impossible before. The shared danger had broken down old prejudices. Cadet Morthak of the Draknari asked a question. Teacher Zhang, what if we fail? What if something gets through? Zhang's expression was serious. Then you call for help. The Guardian fleet will respond. But remember, they cannot leave their posts. If you fail, they might have to sacrifice themselves to fix your mistake. The weight of that responsibility settled on the students. They were not just protecting their own people anymore. They were protecting the Guardians who had given up everything for the galaxy. In the deep spaces between stars, the Guardians continued their watch. Captain Yu Do-hyun's consciousness spanned multiple dimensions now. He could see his fellow Guardians scattered across the galaxy like stars in the darkness. Human minds linked by duty and shared sacrifice. Some days were quiet. The Devourers slept in their prison dimensions. Reality remained stable. The galaxy went about its business, unaware of the constant vigilance that kept it safe. Other days were harder. Contact at Grid Point 77 Alpha, reported Guardian Kim Seo-jun. His voice came from everywhere and nowhere, transmitted through dimensions that had no names. Yu focused his expanded senses on the disturbance. Something was probing the barriers between dimensions. Not a devourer. Something else. Something new. Classification unknown, he reported. Defensive posture authorized. The Guardian fleet moved in ways that normal ships could not. They existed partially outside of normal space-time, allowing them to respond instantly to threats anywhere in the galaxy. The new entity was strong. It pushed against the reality barriers with calculated force, testing for weaknesses. But it was not mindless like the Devourers. This thing was intelligent. First contact protocol, ordered Yu. Try to communicate. Guardian Park Min-ju, who had been a linguist before her transformation, reached out with her enhanced consciousness. She touched the alien mind carefully. What she found surprised her. "It is not hostile," she reported. "It is curious. It wants to know why we guard the barriers." This was unprecedented. In 200 years of guardian duty, nothing from outside had ever tried to communicate. "What do we tell it?" asked Kim Seojun. Yu thought for a moment. His decision would set a precedent for all future contact with entities from beyond normal reality. "We tell it the truth," he said. "We guard because we choose to guard, because life has value, because someone must stand watch." The entity seemed to consider this for a long time. Finally, it responded. "We understand. We will not test these barriers again. Tell your people, there are others beyond the dark who also guard. You are not alone." Then it was gone, leaving only a sense of vast intelligence and ancient purpose. The encounter was reported to the Protective Compact. It caused great excitement and debate. If there were other guardian species beyond the known galaxy, what did that mean for everyone? "It means the universe is bigger than we thought," said Ambassador Co, "and more dangerous, but also more full of hope." New projects began. The Compact started building deep space monitoring stations, not to watch for threats, but to search for other guardian species, to learn from them, to perhaps help them. The galaxy was growing up. On Earth, children learned new songs in school. Songs about heroes who became stars, songs about the silent watch in the dark, songs about sacrifice and duty and love that lasted forever. Museums displayed artifacts from the old human colonies, not as relics of a lost civilization, but as reminders of what humans had really been doing all along. Families of the Guardians received special honors. Their loved ones could not come home, but messages still came from the void, letters written in the language of mathematics and starlight, telling of wonders beyond imagination. The transformed Guardians could see everything: the birth of new stars, the dance of galaxies, the delicate web of cause and effect that held reality together. They had given up their humanity to protect the galaxy, but in doing so, they had become something greater. They had become eternal. Dr. Yoon Minji, now Director of Galactic Relations, stood before a class of young diplomats from across the galaxy. These students would be the ones to build the future. "Remember," she told them, "the old galaxy was built on fear and competition. Everyone thought they had to fight for their share. But there is enough for everyone if we work together." A young Zalani student raised her hand. "Director Yoon, do you think the humans will ever come back? Will they ever be able to return to normal life?" Yoon was quiet for a moment. She thought of her friends in the Guardian fleet. Minds expanded beyond anything that could be called human. Consciousness spread across dimensions where time and space had no meaning. "No," she said finally. "They can never come back. But they are still with us. Every time you look at the stars, remember that human minds are watching over you. They gave up everything so that you could have futures worth living." The student nodded, tears in her eyes. "But that does not mean we should be sad," Yoon continued. "They made their choice freely. They chose love over safety. They chose to protect rather than to conquer. That is the greatest gift anyone can give." In the deepest parts of space, Captain Yu Do-yun felt the weight of his eternal duty. His consciousness touched every reality anchor in the galaxy. He could feel the life that flourished under his protection. Billions of beings going about their daily lives. Children playing, artists creating, scientists discovering, engineers building, farmers growing food, teachers sharing knowledge, all of it possible because the Guardians stood watch. Sometimes he felt lonely. The price of transformation was the loss of simple human pleasures. He would never again taste food or feel rain on his skin. He would never again laugh with friends or hold someone he loved, but then he would sense his fellow Guardians, thousands of human minds linked across the stars. They shared the burden. They shared the purpose, and they shared the joy of knowing that their sacrifice meant something. The galaxy was safe. Life flourished. The future was bright with possibility, and in the silence between stars, the Guardians kept their watch eternal. In his final entry in the Galactic Record, Yu wrote, "We were never meant to rule the galaxy. We were meant to save it." And in becoming something beyond human, we found the most human purpose of all. We stand guard so that others may dream. We embrace the dark so that others may live in the light. This is our choice. This is our gift. This is our promise to the stars. The entry was read in schools across the galaxy. Children learned the names of the human guardians, their sacrifice,